That's the hard part. That's what make people quit. You know, that's a problem for a lot of people, especially when they're on their journey.
Well, it's people say, like, when you by yourself, you can hear yourself think. Boy still was outside. They was getting money. They had cars, the juries, and I used to come around on the block, you know, and the backpack, you know what I'm saying, just when I get out of school. And I realized we're not having the same conversation. So I always tell young people, if you have a conversation with an older person and you didn't learn nothing, it just was a wasted moment. Right? Because you're supposed to always grab something from an elder. You're supposed to always get something, a jewel, a gem, something that can help you later on in life. Like,
what's going on, world family? Welcome to another episode of Journey of the Mindset. Let me just tell you right now, today we have a special guest with us. We got Dominic Smith, author, podcaster, youth developer, businessman, entrepreneur. I can keep going on for days, but I know for a fact that he's going to give us a lot of value. So I just want to start this off because you know me, I do a little bit of too much talking. So I don't want to do too much talking today. I want everybody to really just hear from you because I know that you're going to bring a lot of value to the podcast. Let me just start this off by saying this. I met Mr. Smith, right? A while back. We wound up working with each other in this youth development organization, doing some very, very good work. One of the things that stood out to me the most about Mr. Smith, is that his passion for the youth, his passion to develop the youth, his passion for mentorship, his passion to run programs that's going to give skills to the youth so that way they can get to the levels that they want to be on in life. So I know I said I wasn't going to do a lot of talking. I know that was a big introduction. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, welcome Mr. Dominic Smith.
Thank you. That's a good introduction right there. I love those introductions right there.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you for coming on to the podcast. I know it's a Sunday morning and we out here rocking out. I know the parking out there is not so great because it just finished hitting. It had a snowstorm a week ago. So I appreciate you for coming on to the podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you from? Where did you grow up at?
Well, I'm from Harlem. Grew up in Harlem, 133rd between Lenox.
That explains the swag. Okay,
yeah,
I see that.
Got the drip. Between Lenox and 7th is probably Frederick Douglass and Malcolm X now because of gentrification. You know, they didn't change it up. And as a kid, close-knit community. The funny thing is I didn't even know what project was because I lived in a tenement. Right, so it's the funny thing. Didn't really know. I just thought they were big buildings, but grew up in 133rd between Lenox and 7th, and you know, good people from there.
Let me ask you this, because one of the things I know about that area is got some good food around there. Was Sylvia's around there back in the day?
Sylvia's on 126 in Lenox. You had the famous Candlelight over there. Then you had another Jamaican restaurant on 7th Avenue, 133rd. So. Harlem is culturally entrenched with food, you know, culture, and just style. So that's Harlem's big on that.
Yeah, I know. I'm from the Bronx, but one of the things that Harlem used to always say is that we had no style. Shout out to the Bronx. Shout out to Harlem. Yeah. Who were you when you were growing up? Were you the type of kid that was like just deep into your books, or were you the type that you just had your crew, you used to be out in the streets, you used to make sure that your crew was doing the right thing? Well, like, who were you back in the day when you were growing up, running around Harlem?
Oh man, I was a combination of educated, very educated. My parents were hardworking. My mom's is from Tuskegee, Alabama, and my pops was from Hollywood, South Carolina. They installed education heavily into us, like, you know what I'm saying, also independence, but during that era it was very poor. So but I had a good household. I had one of the best households on the block because I had a mother and father growing up, right? And I think that layer right there provided me some survival skills, but I definitely fell into the traps of any young black male coming out of Harlem, saying drugs, corruption, peer pressure. The need to be accepted, and that's just a part, unfortunately, of a lot of our lives.
I wanna jump back into that because you said something that resonated with me, right? And that's just falling into like that trap, that people set up, these systems that set up, to help us to stop us from doing the things that we want to do as a community. But that's the same thing that we're going through, especially right now with the youth. we're in 2026. We already know about the climate. We got a president, that's out here doing some crazy things and everything else. And I feel that the youth, they're not being really paid much attention to right now because all of the stuff, this smoke, this gray smoke, and the things that we're paying attention to in the social media and the news and things of that nature. But I feel like the same system, the same traps that kept us down back in the day are the same thing that's going on with our youth now. How do you maneuver how do you reach out to a young person or connect with a young person knowing that the same systems that was in place when you were a child are still out there?
Well, I got a slogan. A lot of people might not like the slogan. It's the elders failed us. And it's not all elders, but a lot of elders failed us. They didn't provide for us. They wasn't fathers. Like I said, I had a mother and father. So I had a bunch of friends. A lot of them didn't have fathers. So that same cycle is being reintroduced to the younger generation. A lot of these young men, mostly because a lot of them, mostly the men, and don't have fathers. So if you got a father, you have balance, you got structures, you got some type of discipline. Not to say you can't get caught up with anything, but there's an extra layer of protection there.
Yeah.
And with the youth today, they don't respect a lot of elders because a lot of elders are not living right. And we don't want to call the elders out, right? In the black community, it's two things we couldn't talk about. It's black women in the church.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But, now it's like holding people accountable. We have to hold our own people accountable and stop making excuses about why this is not that. There's not enough parents being parents. There's really not real men in the household. So that's...
All right, so I'm going to say something, right? And it may piss a few people off. So I'm 42 years old, right? I feel like, and I'm working with youth now. I work in a school, high school. I feel like it's our generation that kind of like messed up in a sense, right? I think we were too busy trying to be friends with our child instead of like leading them. But then I also know that the generation that raised us didn't teach us some of those fundamentals, like, okay, emotional intelligence, communicating. I'll give you a prime example, right? So I was talking to this young man. He's locked up. He's been locked up now, I think, for like about 16 years. And one of the things that he said was that he realized, since he's been in jail, because now he's doing the work, he's in jail, so he's trying to like counsel some of the young people that come in there, is that a lot of men that are in jail because they got emotional. They couldn't control their emotions. And he was saying that for somebody to have to sit behind bars for a long period of time because they couldn't control a second, 2 minutes, 5 minutes of an emotion, it's something that's kind of like crazy. And then we kind of like got into that conversation about the generations and stuff like that. And I'm telling him I'm 42 years old. And my opinion that, I think that we tried to be too much as friends. Because even with my son, I have an 18-year-old son. Love my son to death. He's doing what he has to do, graduated from high school. But I led more on I want him to love me more than like, yo, listen, you can hate me, but I'm going to tell you what's not going to happen. You're not going to be a victim to the street. You're not going to be doing it. So I just want your opinion on that, because when I speak about it and I say that, some people, no, it ain't not. It was the people before us. It's their fault, So I just wanted your opinion on that.
Well, I guess you're a millennial, because I will be Gen X. I'm 52. All
right. So
that's the generation above is what I'm talking about, the elders. I think there's like the 55, 56 and up. The funny you said that, I just had that same conversation a couple of days with my grandson. And I told him, I don't really care about your feelings too much, right? And that might rub some people the wrong way. And the reason I said that is, I know more than you, right? Trust me to lead you in the right direction. Now, if I was a drunk or addict, then you can question that, right? There was a time there was values, like you didn't argue back with your parents. They only said things one time and that was it. You open up the door, like we want to hear the young people, but they don't understand what they're saying, right? And their ears is not open to understand what we're saying because of all the technology and information that they're receiving. So they assume that we're on the same level. So you have to be careful with that because, I told my grandson was like, "Oh, Grandpa, man, come on, man, you ain't." I said, "No, because y'all don't listen, right?" So a couple of days ago it was cold. They had a basketball game, right? He ain't have no hat on, no gloves on. He was freezing. And it's like, see, the small things you miss, right, of not listening can be impactful. So I try to teach him about intent versus impact, right? I get you. The intent is you want to express yourself, you want to get your emotions out. But the impact could be disrespectful the way that you're saying it to me, right? And you're not understanding. My parent, they wasn't my friend. My father, he said, I ain't your friend.
Yeah.
Right? Because he understood every day I wake up, we going to war. I can't be your friend. I got to be the leader that you need. A leader takes you somewhere you can't take yourself. So when it comes to young people, we can hear them out, but at the same time, they need a structure, they need balance, and they need discipline. So, your son should be honored to even have a father in his life, because there's a lot of kids, we work in this youth, we see kids with no fathers, right? And if we allow them, this is my favorite example, a lot of parents allow their kids to express yourself, hey, express yourself, right? And then they're 12 expressing themselves, then they're 14 expressing themselves. Now they're 16 and y'all going back and forth like a couple or like y'all boys, right? And now he's 18 and now he's smoking in the house, right? Now I don't want to go to school. Boundaries. There's certain boundaries that has to be drawn. A line in the sand, you can't cross these boundaries. So I can't care about your feelings too much because I'm a general and we at war. Right.
So let me ask you this, and I'm, because I love the fact that you said that. What about some people that would say, well, that approach is hard, or that approach is hard, but where's the avenue for love? How do you show love and toughness at the same time? Because sometimes that toughness, we may say as a father, as a mentor, whatever the case may be, like, yeah, we're being tough. But you got to understand the fact that I'm even taking time to be tough towards you. I'm showing you love, but they may not perceive that way. So how do you build those into?
Well, it's my kids always say I got favoritism, right, with the youngest, but it's not favoritism. It's that he have learned and mastered to be able to take criticism, right, and he see a different side that the other kids don't see. Because if I'm hard on my kids, right, then they don't want to be around. They're going to shut down. All my kids is grown. I mean, that's how it was. Like, you know what I'm saying? But the younger one is 25. He said, yeah, I understand where my dad is coming from, right? He's able to see both sides of the fence. And that comes from emotional intelligence, right? If you got some type of trauma or something going on or something happened to you in life, there's things that a person could say to you that will trigger you and make you shut down. Right, so a lot of the times, a lot of people got triggers that they don't recognize, they can't identify, they don't understand that.
Yeah.
And then it comes over to you, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna say it again, F your feelings, right? Because I'm trying to save lives. I think that once we start caring too much about people's feelings instead of the human being, then we're gonna lose. Like, we care so much about the feelings that now it seems like adults and kids are on the same level.
That right there. That I made a comment over a Zoom call the other day where we were brainstorming on why teens curse adults out, and one of the things that I said is that I can never be friends with a teenager. We can have that mentee-mentor relationship, but if I'm not willing to go sit at a bar with them, have a drink with them, we're going to go on to the strip club, whatever it is, they can't be my friend. It just can't happen that way. But we can have that mentor-mentee relationship. What do you think about something like that? Do you think adults and teenagers or kids, that they can be friends?
There's a level of friendship that we can have. We are mentors. If you're older adult, if you're elder, like, it's mentorship. Yeah. It's always a learning process. I always tell young people, if you have a conversation with an older person and you didn't learn nothing, it just was a wasted moment, right? Because you're supposed to always grab something from an elder. You're supposed to always get something, a jewel, a gem, something that can help you later on in life. Like, so, yeah, we don't have to go out to the strip club, but we can have lunch and talk about what your future plans is. Like, what college you want to go to. Like, what issues you're going through with your girlfriend. Like, you know what I'm saying, self-worth, or how you need to speak better to your parents in the household. So we can have a friendship, but it's just a different level of friendship. And we need to have some type of friendship with these young people.
Yeah.
Like I don't speak about, in the past too much, because once you say back in the days, they
they want to start the old jokes.
Yeah. He's born in 1900s. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
one kid told me last week, Jones, you was around like when the milkman used to bring the bottles in it, and I'm like, no. That's way before me. I ain't seen no milkman bringing the bottles and all that stuff. No, not at all. Let me ask you this: what childhood memory, school, friends, household sticks with you the most that you feel helped you in your development mentally? The future wise.
Like I said, growing up in my time, man, was rough. There was a lot of single mothers. Mothers was working, multiple kids. And one day I'll never forget, I went to my man's house and I opened up the refrigerator, and the refrigerator was brighter than the mother, but it only was water in there. It stuck with me because it's like, how was he eating? But then I understood like why he was going so hard outside, like why he started to do the ones and twos. It's because there was a piece missing, but there was also a father not there in that household as well. So like that memory stayed with me. And I went through my trials and tribulation, but I also told myself like I gotta be better than the next person that I seen growing up in the streets, because growing up when all they did, hey, you want to sell some drugs, you go a gun, those type of things. So as I got older and I became an elder, I said I would never stir a young person in the left direction at all. So
one of the things that you had just said that stuck out to me a lot is that you seen pretty much the picture of the environment that you were growing up in, and you always had a mindset of what you wanted for the future. That was kind of like the same thing with me growing up. I grew up in the South Bronx. I lived in the environment that I lived in was rough, but I always had a vision on getting out, I guess you could say. What do you tell young people that don't see that vision?
Well, you got to be motivated. You know what I'm saying? You got to be motivated, and you got to be comfortable being lonely. That's you got to be comfortable being lonely. Like, I went through a trial when I was going to school. My boy still was outside. They was getting money. They had cars, the juries, and I used to come around on the block, and with the backpack, you know what I'm saying? Just when I get out of school, and I realized we're not having the same conversation no more. And then the conversation started to get shorter and shorter because I'm thinking about, jobs, and I'm thinking about careers, and I'm thinking about business, and they thinking about, I just got this half. I'm about to go out of town. I just took this loss, and I got a situation and it's like, all right, we definitely not on the same path. So you got to be comfortable being lonely. Like, you know what I'm saying? Your journey is your journey. That's what people have to realize. Like, everybody, no matter if you grew up with somebody, you close, y'all slept in the same bed, whatever it is, your journey is your journey. That's basically what it is.
So that's deep that you said that. That's 100% deep that you said that. You got to get used to being lonely. That's a problem for a lot of people, especially when they're on their journey.
Well, it's people say, like, when you by yourself, you can hear yourself thinking. Like, if you cut all the gadgets off, if you can hear yourself thinking.
You know what it is? It's the lonely part. So think about it in this sense, right? You're on this journey of building a business, let's say, right? You don't know what's out there. You don't know but it's like now you're on this journey with this backpack, and you're walking on this road alone. Like, there's nobody there. It's just you. How do you get comfortable with you just being by yourself, just feeling like, nobody got my back. Nobody's going to help me climb this mountain. Like, how do you get comfortable with that feeling? Because that's the hard part. That's what makes people quit.
Well, you got to believe in a higher power. That's first of all, right? That's the first thing. You got to believe in a higher power. Whatever it is, Yahweh, Allah, Jesus, whatever you believe in, that's the second. That's the first thing. The second thing is that loneliness become peace. right? It's like mastering. Like, back in the days, I'm gonna say back in the days, young people, you had the karate pitchers. That person would go to the mountains and practice and get themselves prepared to come back down and fight whoever they wanted to fight that sent them back up. If you can't master yourself, then how can you master anything else?
You cannot master yourself.
Just think about that. If you can't master yourself, how can you master anything else?
That's like the whole airplane thing. You put the mask on the baby, or you put the on you. You got to put it on you first, because if you pass out, nobody's gonna be there to save.
You can't save the kid. And that's what people got to realize in this space and in whatever you do in life. There's gonna be a moment where you got to be selfish.